Well, good evening and welcome to Sedro-Woolley City Hall. My name is Aaron Berg. I'm the City Supervisor for Sedro-Woolley, and on behalf of the Mayor and City Council, we appreciate all of you coming out in this wintry, or at least fall day today to hear our candidates. This is a neutral voter forum hosted by the City of Sedro-Woolley, consistent with our Washington State Public Disclosure Commission's Declaratory Order number 13. We're glad that all of you are here and appreciate all of the candidates for their participation tonight. This forum is being audio and video recorded and will be on the city's website. Also, our local radio station KSVR is here and are recording this for later broadcast on the radio. Format for tonight's forum is that questions are taken from the audience in the form of those cards in the back by the chief. You can see on the cards there are 4 choices of candidate pairings, so you can pose your question to one or more candidate pairings just by circling the pair. And our moderator tonight, Don Wick, will read the questions. The forum will begin with a 2-minute introductory statement from each candidate. Introductory statements are made in alphabetical order by office. The first response for questions will alternate between candidates, with each candidate getting 1 minute to respond and an optional 30-second rebuttal. The order of responses will rotate with each question. Pat Hayden is our volunteer timekeeper tonight, and he's got a new method. You can see there, you can't see it in the audience, but the giant black box there is a large LED clock, normally used at a CrossFit gym for interval training. For tonight, it's for you to know how much time you have on the clock. It will not be in countdown mode, it will be in count up mode. So when Don tells you you've got 2 minutes, Pat will hit the start, and that'll just give you a good idea of how much is left between 0 and 2, or 0 and 1, and 0 and 30 seconds. Pat will give you a 30-second warning when you are nearing the end of either your 2-minute or 1-minute time periods, obviously not for the 30-second rebuttal. Finally, candidates will be given 2 minutes for a closing statement, and the opposite order is the opening statements. One thing Don and I noticed about our primary candidates forum is there were a lot of questions that had sort of audience statements. And it's really, really useful when phrasing your questions if they're phrased in a manner that's intended to just draw out the most opportunity for the candidates to speak, rather than for the candidates to hear what you think. That's also important. That's just a different forum. Tonight's forum is really for them to tell you what they're all about and for you to hear that. So are there any questions from our candidates before we get started? Any questions from the audience? Well, with that, Don Wick is graciously helping us, I think, for the 3rd time. And he'll begin with the opening statements, beginning with our candidate for school board, Wendy Granberg. Thank you.
First, we want to say, give our condolences and deep sympathies to Brenda Kinzer, who lost her mother this past Sunday. We'll start the 2 minutes, and we'll start with the race for the school board. And Wendy Granberg, you're up first. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Oh, one other thing. Don't start the 2 minutes yet. Everyone, these are very directional microphones. You need to speak right directly into the microphone so everybody can hear you and so it can be recorded. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Good evening, and thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you to all who voted in the primary election, and thank you to those facilitating this forum. My name is Wendy Granberg, and I am running for a position on the Sedro-Woolley School Board. I am a longtime resident of Sedro-Woolley, a Sedro-Woolley High School graduate, and I have a son who is a junior at the high school. My mother was a longtime teacher at Cascade. I am running to be an advocate and voice for students, parents, teachers, and staff, and to represent them. I bring leadership and advocacy experience and skills from my role as Vice President of Home Trust of Skagit and the many, many volunteer organizations I participate in. I believe public education is the base for a productive and successful life in society. Education can be the great equalizer of society when it is provided in an equitable manner to all students. I want to ensure all students have a bright future full of many opportunities. With many of the district's current buildings and facilities in need of repair or replacement, I believe it is incredibly important to be good stewards of tax dollars, maintain fiscal responsibility, and to have these actions reflect the values and financial capacity of the district's residents. I encourage you to vote, and I would be honored to have your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Eric Johnson, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you all for coming. My name is Eric Johnson. I'm running for the Sedro-Woolley School Board. I'm a fourth-generation Woolleyite and a legal assistant at Stiles Law Firm. Public education is a defining trait for both sides of my family. Whether janitors, administrators, maintenance workers, librarians, advocates, or teachers, I'm proud of the contributions that my family has made to public education. I'm running for school board because it is my opinion that our schools are the lifeblood of this community. There is no greater or more common rallying point than to see our students receive the best education possible and to launch them into their future endeavors. I strongly believe that I can and will help contribute to that end. Public policy is my background, and I have almost 7 years serving on the city's planning commission, helping to craft and oversee long-term city plans. That knowledge and skill set is directly transferable to policy crafting and long-term vision planning that make up the heart of the school board's responsibilities. I do believe that it is perfect timing to usher in the next generation of leadership. I will bring in a fresh perspective and youthful insight to the board. When I first decided to run for public office, I promised that I would be true to who I am, to run a clean and positive campaign, and that I would lead with empathy and a servant's mindset, but also that I would be a listener with a discerning ear. I can promise you that, should I be elected, those same principles will carry over to my role as a school board director. I will make a point to regularly visit schools and classrooms and have lunch with teachers and administrators to better understand the needs of our schools. I will help fight and advocate for the Upper Skagit students and our Spanish, Ukrainian, and Russian-speaking students also. I want to help facilitate greater creativity in teaching methods in the elementary level and strongly support civic, vocational, and STEM education at the high school level. I look forward to hearing from you tonight and hope to have your vote.
Thank you. We now move to the 3 city council positions that are contested. I do want to remind everybody what Winston Churchill once said. He said, democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others. So we start with Mr. Jared Couch. You have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Don. I want to thank everyone who braved the weather to come out tonight. I sit before you as a glowing example of the statement that every vote counts. I'm pretty sure if you've made the venture here that you probably read the paper and you know that I'm here by 1 vote. And that goes along with my beliefs in my campaign that every citizen matters and every point needs to be heard. I want to make a couple comments about my experience. It's been called to question a few times, or folks have asked me, why do you want to be here? I think that being 28 years old only works in my favor. I believe a balance of experience and youthful passion give me the edge to be a quality candidate and really set me apart to be the best candidate for your council at large. I believe firmly in the fact that I was born with a passion to help others and to be a leader within my community. From early years, student government within the school district, to serving as Kirk Pearson's page when he was in the House. When I went to Eastern Washington University and served with the Associated Students of Eastern Washington University as the Chief Justice of the Superior Court. To my time with the Skagit County Sheriff's Office, when I was there as a union leader, serving multiple terms as a union president, bargaining contracts, to my experience with the Fraternal Order of Police, being a local president of over 240 local law enforcement officers, and receiving the endorsement of the Washington State Fraternal Order of Police and the thousands of members that they represent around this state. I believe I do have valuable experience in politics, and I have a drive to do the best I can for the community, and that's what you'll get when you vote for me. I appreciate everyone being here and look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Paula Kelly, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Don. And thank you to our hosts and for everyone that came out in the big dark. I hope you and all your families are safe and that you have the provisions you need should your lights go out. The reason I am running is service to the community is second only to my family for me. I believe we all have obligations to our community, and we all need to do our part to create the place we all are proud to call home. Over the past 20 years, I've sought out ways to increase my commitments to our city. The most essential needs in our community continue to be growing a strong, vital economy while protecting the spirit of our unique identity. A comment I often hear from folks coming in from out of town at the visitor center is the character of our city is so genuine, and many people say it feels like coming home. I have been very interested in the community, not only as a service leader with the Chamber for the past 16 years, but also through service on the boards with the hospital, other chambers, the Boys and Girls Club, and the Cascade Loop Association. I have worked with the Sedro-Woolley Leadership Group since its inception, and the people of Sedro-Woolley will benefit from the experience I bring to the office. The ability to work with other leaders and establish mutual goals beneficial to the community at large is the most important aspect a candidate can bring to this position. The connections with leaders throughout the community, with others who serve our city council, our county, and our state are important in accomplishing those goals. What are some of the goals I would like to see? Well, I think we'll get to those later. But I would also like to say thanks to my opponent. He has chosen a challenging career and is often faced with difficult situations. So thanks for your service, Jared.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. We move from the at-large council position to Ward 3, which is in the southwest part of the city, and the incumbent, Brenda Kinzer. You have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Good evening, everybody, and it's really nice to see you all out here. It's good to see a full house to come in and listen to the candidates tonight. I'm Brenda Kinzer. I'm your current incumbent council person for Ward 3. I am a Skagit County native. I was raised in Mount Vernon, attended Mount Vernon High School, and then very shortly afterwards moved up to the Sedro-Woolley and Lyman areas. Some of my community involvement is sitting on the Lyman Town Council, being greatly involved in youth softball as a coach, an accountant, a team parent. That was for 14 years. I've been on school parent groups. I sit on the board of the Sedro-Woolley Museum. I'm currently the director of the Northern State Preservation Group, which is working on preserving the cemetery up at Northern State at this point. And I sit on the board of Chloe's Hope Foundation, which is a cystic fibrosis foundation which supports Children's Hospital. The reason I decided to run for re-election is because there's definitely a learning curve of becoming a council person. It takes a couple of years to learn how to learn the city processes and how to get involved and make the correct decisions regarding the city. I'm super excited about a couple of things we have going on. The library merger and the Swift Center. And hopefully we're moving into talks have begun about revitalizing the downtown core here in Sedro-Woolley. So thanks again for coming out tonight, and look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kinzer. Mr. Dennis O'Neill, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
This probably won't take more than about a minute. I sat on my reading glasses last night, so it's really hard to even see what I've been writing up here. Sort of scribbles. I'm 67 years old. I'm second oldest one up here. And I was very happily retired and didn't plan on running for any office to speak of. You know, I had so much schooling and things like that, and working in the banking area, I didn't really want to be out in the public that much. But I started coming to the city council meetings, and you know, I was sort of disappointed on what I was hearing and learning, and the lack of communication back and forth between the council and the members that come in here from the community. If you've been in here very often, you'll be lucky to see more than 10 people at the council meetings. And most of that's because the folks that run the council, the mayor doesn't really want to get in a discussion with people here in the community. And part of that is because of the time elements that's utilized. But I find that's discerning to me, and I think the council members should have stood up for their own right as representing different people in their wards. That it's important to be able to respond to people's concerns and their questions when you come to a city council meeting. That's our time to find information out directly. It's also a recorded time where if you go to work studies or something like that, they aren't. And I think that's important also. You have a record of what they said, what their reply was, where they stand on various issues, and that's been missing. And that's why I am running for city council position. I think Brenda's done a pretty good job, but I spent a lot of time in banking, and I learned an awful lot through banking management, how to work with others, communicate, and be open to people. And that's where I stand. And you know, there's a number of concerns I've had beyond
Mr.
this.
O'Neill, your time is up.
Well, darn. Thanks.
Council Ward 6, we have two challengers, just like we do on the at-large position, made possible at the at-large position when Brett Sandstrom decided not to run again. And in the 6th Ward, four-term council member Rick Lemley chose not to run, so we have two challengers. Mr. Harold Beitler, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. I'd like to say also good evening to you people. It's nice to see you come out with the interest that we have in Sedro-Woolley to see what their city government is doing. Thank you. But nice evening to be inside, that's for sure. Anyway, a lot of you people probably already knew who I am or know of me. I'm not a stranger in Sedro-Woolley. I've been a resident and property owner for some 40-odd years. Retired from the Sedro-Woolley Police Department as a detective. Also retired from the Sedro-Woolley Volunteer Fire Department as a captain and fire instructor, as well as I was a fire instructor for the state of Washington. I taught classes for fire service all over the state. As we go down through this, one of our things we got to take a look at is our town here. Sedro-Woolley is a very good place to live. Fortunately, I have lived in quite a few places in my younger years. And I've always come right back to Sedro-Woolley. First few years I was in and out of here with my parents living here. I'd be here for 4 or 5 months, 6 months, head down to California or whatever. Finally decided that this was a place to come into. And got into Sedro-Woolley here and settled down, went to work, and have been very, very happy. We've got a very good place here. We can advance with it as time goes on. We've got a first-class fire department, a first-class police department. Both of them are gaining ground all the time in expertise. And I think that we need a little bit more encouragement from our city council on these people, on getting their people higher trained.
Mr. Beitler, your time is up. Thank you. Mr. Carl DeYoung, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Hi, I'm Carl DeYoung, and I'm running for Sedro-Woolley City Council, Ward 6. And I do appreciate you coming out tonight in this weather to hear a bunch of politicians talk. Though I don't think any of us would consider ourselves politicians. But it's still true, though, because we want your votes. Tonight, I hope to earn yours. I'm running because our city has challenges that must be met. Challenges that range from growing responsibly, to protecting jobs, to preserving our unique rural community lifestyle. That's something I care deeply about because I have roots in this community. My mother was a registered nurse at Northern State Hospital. I caught my first fish in Hanson Creek. I want to serve our city because it's always been in my heart, no matter where the rest of me was living at the time. You know, hard work is a sacred value to my family. I've tried to emphasize that in this campaign, going door to door, talking to folks on how we can work together to solve tough problems. I can't promise that myself or any other candidate has all the answers, nor do I pretend to know everything. What I do know is nothing happens in a vacuum, and every decision affects everyone differently. It's important, it's very important, to take the effects of every policy on every resident into account. That means listening to everyone. I'm sure we'll discuss plenty of specifics tonight. For my part, I can listen to your questions, and I'll be answering them best I can. Governing isn't about one group of people making rules for others to follow. It's about feeding, strengthening, and growing Sedro-Woolley, the city we all call home. It is not a contest to see who's lived here the longest. Otherwise, we'd all write down how long we've lived here, and that'd be it for the election. That might be cheaper, mind you, but that's not how democracy works. I ask for your vote. Thank you. Have a good forum.
Thank you very much, Mr. DeYoung. We now go to the question part. You have 1 minute to answer the question, and we're going to go in reverse order. And then after that, there'll be a rebuttal news segment too. So this question will apply to all candidates, and we'll repeat it as we go down the line. What quality do you have that would make you a better candidate than your opponent? We'll turn to Eric Johnson first to answer that question. What quality do you have that would make you a better candidate than your opponent?
I believe that, like Jared, my age is actually one of my better assets. I think that what you're seeing is a evolving education and economic system happening throughout the world, and I'm growing up in it, and I understand where students are going to be facing. I'm not that far out of college. I understand the difficulties of trying to understand where your education applies to the market. But I also think that my experience that I have had to date is vitally important, both in being able to know exactly how to formulate policy, but also developing long-term vision, which is essential to the position of school board.
Thank you. Wendy Granberg, what quality do you have that would make you a better candidate than your opponent?
Thank you. Well, first I would say I'm not going to get my Social Security card anytime soon. I think one quality is that I have lifelong experience with public education, as I am a product of the Sedro-Woolley public school system. My son is a current student there, and I am very active in this community. More than 50% of students in the district are on free or reduced lunch. I am out in our community serving meals through the food kitchen, assisting families at Skagit Gleaners, assisting first-time home buyers with children to obtain affordable housing through Skagit Habitat for Humanity or through Home Trust of Skagit. So I think having a knowledge of who the community is and who we serve is fundamentally important.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric, Clerk, if you so choose, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal. You don't have to exercise that. I want to say that to all the candidates. There may be times when you want to and other times when you choose not to. But you have 30 seconds if you so choose for a rebuttal.
I would say that I too have a knowledge of what the community feels and wants. Working on the Sedro-Woolley Planning Commission has definitely given me opportunity to sometimes face very angry constituents, depending on what's happening. So I can kind of have a pulse as to what people are viewing for this community, and I think that the school district is intricately connected to that.
Wendy, you have 30 seconds for your rebuttal if you so choose.
Okay, thank you. I guess I would say that I'm not sure that the school district is that should be or is that intricately connected with the city. What's best for the district might not always be best for the city and vice versa. I think it's important to have unbiased view.
Thank you very much. Okay, we go to the at-large position. Paula Kelly, the question is for you. What quality do you have that would make you a better candidate than your opponent?
Well, that's an interesting question. We're quite a lot alike and a lot different. You know, certainly I have more experience at large in this community. I have done many things throughout the years, and one of the things that I think has made a big difference in where I'm at with it is in the Sedro-Woolley Leadership Group, which represents the city, the hospital, the port, the county, EDASC, and many other organizations that can come together once a month and inform each other about what's important and what's going on in those parts. And we've managed to do a lot of things through that. A lot of them have been like the STEM Network and the SWIFT Center. All of that came out of that initial meetings that we had.
Thank you very much. Jared, you have 1 minute. The question, what quality do you have that would make you a better candidate than your opponent?
Well, I agree with Paula. It's a difficult question. Obviously, I think we're both great candidates for the position, but there's only one of us that will get elected. I think with me, you get a fiery passion to make a difference. I do that every day when I go to work. I met with 33 to 5-year-olds today and talked about safety on Halloween, and I got to keep going. I have a passion to get involved in a task and make a difference and chase down the best option, and I think that's a valuable asset for the city. And not a dig at Paula's age. I mean, we've joked about it. I'm the same age as her grandkids, like we brought up last time, but I'm going to be a go-getter for the community and make the most out of 4 years.
Okay, thank you very much, Paula. 30 seconds if you so choose for rebuttal.
The only thing I would add to that is, while I admire what Jared does, I think it's a difficult job. I do feel that I have that same kind of passion for this community. I've demonstrated it over and over again, and I truly believe that I am the better candidate for the position. And even though I am kind of an advanced age, I think I can manage.
Jared, you have 30 seconds if you so choose.
Like I said, it's difficult, but I believe that, from the experience that I do have and working at, all levels of government, and I think my educational record speaks for itself. When I'm involved in something, I want to be the best at it, and the citizens that vote for me, you won't be disappointed in it. I'm not in this to. Thank you.
Okay, we move to Ward 3, and Dennis, you have 1 minute to answer this question. What quality do you have that would make you a better candidate than your opponent?
Well, I think I'm a little bit more persistent in finding answers that may not be apparent right at the time you're discussing issues or thinking of it. I don't really take the first answer. A lot of times it comes back, and I haven't with our council members. I question further. I'm a little stubborn that way. I really want the answer that's supposed to be out there instead of this quick answer off the cuff. Many of the things that are going on seem to be basically just generated, and there's not really a good question and answer or any procedure for doing it. We sort of canceled out a lot of the communication that's been been there in the past. 4 years ago, we had a different city council, and a number of them, and it just seemed like things went pretty good. They questioned each other during the meetings. You don't see that anymore. It's like it's already programmed when they come into the council meetings of what's going to occur. It's not really an open session.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Brenda, same question. What quality do you have that would make you a better candidate than your opponent?
I think a better quality is fairness to everybody. It's very important to get the entire story out on the table, all the pieces of the puzzle, instead of just picking one little piece and taking it on a spin and running with that. It's very important, and it's not fair to the residents to just run off with one little piece of an issue. Everybody, the residents, our constituents, people in our ward, need to know the entire background of an issue, whether it be library. Is that it? Oh, no. Whether it be the library, the Swift Center, whatever it may be, we can't just inform about one little section of that issue. We have to be fair. We have to be completely upfront and honest about things.
Thank you very much. Dennis, if you so choose, 30 seconds for rebuttal.
I have no rebuttal. Thank you.
Brenda.
I have no rebuttal.
It's hard to rebut that, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. We're on to Ward 6. And Carl, this question goes to you first. What quality do you have that would make you a better candidate than your opponent?
Well, first off, I respect Harold. And with that said, I believe my background of community activism and a practical vision for the future of our city makes me the best choice. Sedro-Woolley is not defined by ideology or political party. It will take everyone together, all of us working energetically to build the future we want to see. So should I be honored with the majority of votes, I would reach out and work with everyone who cares about our city. And I believe that's what public service is all about. Thank you.
Harold, same question to you. What quality do you have that would make you a better candidate than your opponent?
I kind of look at it from the standpoint, it's like a coin. There's two sides to every story. I'm looking at experience. I've been around City Hall for a good many years, in and out of it. Hear a lot of information that's creeping out of different offices into the street and back to us. And I feel that with my past experience in the city, the good and the bad, what's occurred, would be a little bit of an advantage over my component over here. We both have the same opinion. We want to run a very clean type of campaign. So we're not bad-mouthing each other. It's just the fact that I feel that with my experience through the police department, fire department, and just the friendship with the rest of the people over the years, I have a much better shot at what's going on as far as keeping people on the level.
Okay, thank you very much. Carl, 30 seconds for rebuttal, so choose.
Thank you. Every election sets a tone for the future with expectations for the present. So my background in community activism means I'm well-versed in how government functions. I'm also committed to emphasizing the basics of life, of daily life. Things like keeping storm drains clear and streets free of potholes. I'm asking everyone committed to making Sedro-Woolley better, both now and for the future, to consider supporting me for Sedro-Woolley Council. Thank you.
Mr. Beidler, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
I think I'll pass on that one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we're going to move to the school race for the school board, and this is a question for the two of you. And Wendy, you go first. In your opinion, has the legislature now provided adequate funding for basic education as required by the McCleary decision?
Thank you. Well, they've made some progress with the McCleary decision, although it is not 100% funded. I know they're still searching to find enough money to fund special education and enough to fairly distribute teacher salaries. So because of that, there is still a need for bonds and levies from the district, from the community. Those budget issues, fortunately, are still up in the air. They're still undecided, and hopefully we can have a final answer soon.
Thank you. Eric Johnson, same question to you. In your opinion, has the legislature now provided adequate funding for basic education as required by the McCleary decision?
No, I don't think it has. As far as McCleary goes, I read through that decision, and for a court decision, it's actually a pretty good read. I highly recommend you guys go out and read it. It's not too long. It does smack a little bit of legislating from the bench, which I didn't like, but the overall findings that McCleary came to, its conclusions, I thought were really spot on. I don't think that the legislature has actually adequately responded to the McCleary decision. I think that there's a little bit of kind of smoke and mirrors as to what they're trying to do. I think it's going to end up back in court, wasting more taxpayer funds. It'd be nice to eventually have a fully funded public education system, given that it's the paramount duty of our state legislature, but I think that it still needs to be fleshed out a little bit more.
Thank you very much. Wendy, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal if you so choose.
I guess not really a rebuttal, but I would obviously agree that fully funding our education is of the utmost importance. And I do think the McCleary decision was a positive one.
Jay?
Thank you.
30 seconds if you so choose.
You mean?
I mean, Eric.
Hey, you didn't do it with sex ed this time.
What's that?
You didn't do it with sex ed this time. No rebuttal.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we turn to, this is just for the council at large, and Paula, you'll get the second on this. I'll let Jared, it's Jared. Thank you. What language would you like to see in the Sedro-Woolley Police Department policies to assure that they are implementing fair treatment for all?
I would like to see the city, the council, step up and fund a lieutenant's position for the police department. I think it applies proper oversight to the officers, and it gives more administrative support. I actually know that is in the policy, that they have a lieutenant. There's a position there, but when Chief Wood left and they had a need for officers, they dissolved that position to put more boots on the ground and serve the citizens. But Sedro-Woolley is a big enough police department, a big enough city, and we have enough crime that I think that we need that second in command for the police department to provide the support to the chief and to the officers. So we're not putting our so much work on our sergeants, our first line supervisors. I'd like to see the city look into that and fund a lieutenant.
Thank you, Jared. Paula, same question. What language would you like to see in the Sedro-Woolley Police Department policies to ensure that they are implementing fair treatment for all?
I'm not quite sure how to respond to that. I'm not sure if the question was aimed at, do our police chiefs and our police officers treat people fairly? I believe they do. It's never been in my mind that anything that they've done has ever created a situation that I would consider to be one where someone was treated unfairly because of their race or their ethnic background. And that's kind of the way I understand that question that you've stated. As far as funding for additional support with the police department, I think we could use that, but there's other departments that also need some additional funding.
Thank you very much. Joe, 30 seconds if you so choose.
I think just a little bit of clarification on what I was saying is with that lieutenant's position, I think that when there is a citizen complaint, that proper procedures then followed to, on the investigation and those things. And I think that position helps with that. We have an outstanding police department that I will continue to support, and I appreciate the council's support that they've shown to that department. I think our council's done a great job of that.
Thank you. Paula?
I agree. When I'm here at the council meetings and the chief speaks, he usually does a good job of outlining what's going on in the department and lets us know, that he's working on adding additional officers and how they're doing. And I totally see him as being right there in the community all the time. The other officers that I've dealt with, I had one bring back 5 signs that had been misplaced to me, and he brought them into my home, so I thank him for that.
Thank you very much. We move on. This next question is set for both Ward 3 and Ward 6, and the first question goes to you, Brenda. This is, as a council member, if a decision is made that you oppose, how do you put your feelings aside and work toward the common goal?
Well, in the past, a lot of decisions have been made that I oppose. And so what I have always done is just sat back and said, okay, if this is a decision, then we have to make it work in order to benefit all the citizens of Sedro-Woolley in the best way possible. Even though I don't agree with it, it now is. Maybe we can revisit it later, but for now, we're just going to have to settle with it, but make sure that it is working for the benefit of all.
Same question. As a council member, if a decision is made that you oppose, how will you put your feelings aside and work toward the common goal?
Well, I think I would first try to figure out where my thinking was wrong, and I'd ask the person or the people that were in support of something I wasn't, where they were coming from on it. Try to get, obviously my perspective isn't perfect for anybody's point of view. And I just think a person should still be trying to find out just how you misinterpreted what was going on or your own viewpoint's wrong. You can learn an awful lot from other people. And most of the time when I'm wrong and I start talking to somebody else, I'll see where it is and try to correct my thought process so I don't make the same mistake twice. Thank you.
Brenda, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal if you so choose.
I don't feel that being in disagreement really means that we made a mistake in our thought process. It just means that we're all individuals and we're all going to have different opinions on what we feel is best for the city. So just not being in agreement doesn't really mean that it's a mistake in my mind.
Dennis, you have 30 seconds if you so choose.
I didn't mean to imply that. I was just trying to figure out sometimes there's something you did not think of, and I'm always learning more from people that disagree with me than from my own thought process. I mean, it's wonderful. You're just amazing what you can find out if people are willing to talk about it. If they shut you off, it's pretty hard where you can't learn from your perspective and grow with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beidler, this question goes to you first. As a council member, if a decision is made that you oppose, how will you put your feelings aside and work toward the common goal?
That's a very common thing, happen. Yes. When something comes across like that actually goes again the grain, so to speak, you got to take a hard look at it and take it apart, put it back together, and at that time, try to decide what is the best. Now, I've gone through this situation a time or two, and a couple of times when I took a pretty hard stand on it, I got my mind changed by listening to the other people. They pointed out where I was in error in a lot of my thoughts. We have a tendency to get in a trough and stay there. We've got to get out of this trough. We've got to go real wide on our so-called conversation and hearing. so that we understand what the problem is and try to get the proper answer for it, even though you may not like it.
Okay, thank you very much. And Carl, same question. As a council member, if a decision is made that you oppose, how will you put your feelings aside and work toward the common goal?
Right. So if you're in the minority opinion, you do, as we've heard throughout here, you do have to do a self-check to be aware that where your information is coming from, and is that from your own self-values, and making sure you're not laying that template over what the constituents of the ward want. And because you are the bosses of what happens up here. And so I've been in this situation many times throughout my life where I've been in the minority opinion, and sometimes I've been completely off base, and you get under the same yoke and you pull together because we have a job to do, and we need to do that together in harmony. And that sometimes the minority opinion has, over the arc of time, influenced what was in the majority. So I think it's very important that we all get on an oar and row together, and that we are under the same yoke. So if I have a minority opinion, it is something that I would work with the majority to move forward.
Thank you. Harold Butler, 30 seconds for rebuttal if you so choose.
About the only thing I could say as a rebuttal here is when the occasion comes about and you find that you're on one side of the fence and everybody seems to be on the other side, you try to figure out why. And when you once figure that out, then you either join them or stand your place. I don't like to see anybody being wishy-washy. Take a stand, and if you're shown you're wrong, admit you're wrong, and let's take a look and see what we can do here to get it working properly.
Thank you. Carl DeYoung, 30 seconds if you so choose.
Again, to reiterate, we need to listen to everyone because every sense of policy that's put out there affects people differently. So over a period of time, again, we all have to work together to move the city forward and the community forward and pick up a row and start rowing. But we have to be listening to our constituents and doing what they ask. Thank you.
Thank you. We turn back to the school board candidates, and here's a question for the two of you. And we'll start with you, Mr. Johnson. According to this question, there are certainly undocumented students in the Sedro-Woolley school district. Do you support DACA, and how will you support these students?
Getting right into the politically charged questions here. So in my opinion, as a school board member, I don't think that we're in the business of doing law enforcement. That should be left to the law enforcement agencies. I think while the students are here, they need to be protected. They need to be given the best education possible, and they shouldn't be treated any differently. A lot of these students, these children aren't necessarily here because of any choice that they've made. I mean, they're here because their parents are here, and I don't think that they should necessarily be unduly punished for decisions that weren't theirs. But hopefully, we can make sure that they are well protected.
Thank you. Wendy, same question to you. There are certainly undocumented students in the Sedro-Woolley school district. Do you support DACA, and how will you support these students?
Thank you. Yes, I do support DACA, and I think what we need to do as a community and as a school district is to absolutely support and encourage these students, provide them with every opportunity and resource we have available to them as we would to any other student in the district. I don't think that they should be limited or on any access to programs, again, the education or resources. They should be supported and encouraged and educated as any other student within the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric, 30 seconds if you so choose for rebuttal. Wendy?
No, thanks.
Okay. Next question for the at-large position. This question we'll share with all of you. Do you believe there should be term limits for the mayor and council members? And the first question goes to Paula.
Well, no. I don't. I feel like our legislative processes are there to keep things moving. I feel like, just as shows that we're doing what we're meant to do, which is to have the... I'm sorry. My mic's not on. Sorry. Okay. So anyway, thanks, Doug. Anyway, so I definitely feel like that's an unnecessary legislation in our community. Our mayor's only been there since one term. Our other people, okay, I gotta stop.
Same question, Jared. Do you believe there should be term limits for the mayor and council members?
You know, I'll be honest with you. If the community came before the council, you know, and wanted us to, you know, pursue something like that, I think it's worth looking into. I'm with Paula. I don't see an issue. I don't know of candidates that have spent a lot of time in a position. I enjoy the political process, you know, challenge somebody. But by saying that, I guess I wouldn't be opposed to hearing it if somebody wanted to introduce it during, you know, so the council could talk about it and we could have staff look into it.
Thank you. Over 30 seconds if you so choose.
Well, term limits should be decided at the ballot box. That's where you have your right to voice your opinion. And so if you don't want a candidate in the office anymore, vote them out. But you don't need to legislate that.
Jared, you have 30 seconds if you so choose.
The only thing I would say is if the people wanted it, I'd be willing to look into it, but I don't think it's, I think there's things that we could fix other than that. I think there's things within the city that need attention, but if the people want that, then we could put it on the agenda.
Thank you. Moving to Ward 3, Mr. O'Neill, do you believe there should be term limits for the mayor and council members?
Well, I'll break with everybody, and I think there should be. And the reason is everybody has a different perspective, and a lot of times that perspective isn't something that the people who have been entrenched want to hear about. They got their own way of doing things, and that's the way it is. And even on a council where you've got a council and mayor, I'm just using that for an example. You got one person after a few years gets a lot more authority than maybe any individual council member, and that can really twist what people want. It sounds really good to have somebody in there with no term limit, but you look at our national Congress, one of the biggest issues before the U.S. is what do we do with congressmen that are in there and they get to the point where they're just not, if they're not responding to their constituents, and they're hard to vote out. It's a nice feeling that you can vote them out and get somebody in there, but most people aren't going to run against somebody that's got 3 or 4 terms in there, so I'm against it. I'm for term limits, and like in council and the mayor, 2 terms should be enough to get what you think should be done.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Brenda, same question. Do you believe there should be term limits for the mayor and council members?
This is one of those issues of being in the minority in the council vote that recently came up to the council for a vote a couple months ago, and I voted for term limits, but upon further discussion and more reflection, I'm now opposed to term limits. So this is one of those things that you have to see where you possibly saw wrong initially, and I'm opposed to term limits now because really there aren't a lot of people who want to run for office, and if you have a good council person in your seat, it's up to the voters to determine whether or not they think that person should continue on or not. And in a lot of cases, there's no one that wants to step up and run to fill that seat if someone's term was over. So, yeah, I'm opposed to term limits now.
Thank you. Dennis, you have 30 seconds if you so choose.
I had a great thought, and I can't remember it. It happens quite a bit. I'm not going to have a rebuttal on. I think, well, maybe I will. Back and forth. I just disagree with it. I think we should have term limits. I think there should be a time to get your job done and go home. And people stay too long, and we see it again on the federal level, and everybody complains about it. Then when they come down to vote for it or put it into action, they all back off from it. I don't know.
Thanks. Brenda, 30 seconds.
Well, I'll just reiterate, it's up to the voters. If they're unhappy with the person in the seat, vote for their opponent.
Thank you. Remind everybody to speak directly in your microphone. Get pretty close. Use the directional mic so we can record this and so that everyone can hear, and make sure your mic is on. The same question goes to you, Carl DeYoung. Do you believe there should be term limits for the mayor and council members?
I oppose term limits for the very reason that the best candidate might be the person already in office. With that said, I have knocked every door in Ward 6, and I have not heard this issue come up. And I would agree with other comments on the dais here that there are other bigger fish to fry. But if it was to come up, it would be something that we would talk with our constituents about. I think in Ward 6 we have about 800 people that live in Ward 6, and we'd have to talk about the recruitment of those folks. There's a lot of issues to talk about it, but this is not the United States Congress. This is a community group of about 800 folks.
Harold, by the same question, do you believe there should be term limits for the mayor and council members?
Definitely believe there should be term limits. Two terms, and then move on. We had an administrator in here several years ago, made a comment, and I never thought about it before, but it sure fits the situation right now. After a certain period of time, normally about 5 years, you run out of fresh ideas. It's time to move on and get a new person in that position. That is my feeling right there. After you put 2 terms in, 8 years, you run out of fresh ideas. Let's get somebody in that place that has new ideas and can move ahead. Otherwise, you're going to be stalemated. I've watched it with the council in the years past, and here you got a guy who's been on there for a number of years. Sometimes he don't make too good sense, and people go along with him just because of his time in there, and he's been there for a long time. But I definitely think that it's something to be thought about. Okay. Maybe we should go to vote.
Carl, doing 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Again, it's not the U.S. Congress that we're talking about. We're talking about we're seeing each other in a place of worship. We're seeing each other at events. We're seeing each other at the grocery store. There's a direct connection to your council member. With that said, any proposal would need to be carefully examined, and is something that we'd have to bring our constituents and stakeholders together to talk about, so that way we're all pulling together on something. Thank you.
Mr. Bidler, you have 30 seconds if you so choose.
No, the other thing I say that when it got chopped there a second ago is, in the end, it should go to vote of the people. And let the council decide yes or no, and then let's give it to the people. Thank you.
Okay, we move to, this is for school board candidates. And Wendy, this question is for you first. STEM is everywhere, but as our students graduate, what will set our students apart from the legion of techie robots entering the workplace?
Good question. I think one of the things that could separate the graduates from Sedro-Woolley High School is the career and technical opportunities that they have there. They have a program linked up with Skagit Valley College where they can learn firefighting skills, other technical skills that will provide them with a job or career in the future. But aside from that, I think the biggest thing we can do is encouraging the students to be successful beyond post-high school, among teaching them life skills, is encouraging them that college is attainable and college is achievable. Getting them linked up with FAFSA, the Federal Financial Student Aid, teaching them from middle school, really from elementary school on, that college is an achievable goal.
Thank you very much. Eric Johnson, same question to you. STEM is everywhere. As our students graduate, what will set them apart from the legion of techie robots entering the workplace?
I'd actually agree with my opponent that the vocational vocational education program that we have at the high school is actually a very great program, and it dovetails very well with the STEM program as well. It gives students a hands-on and very structured education, and it provides them with an added skill set that's beyond just science, technology, and the rest of it. But I also think that the school has done a really good job of also helping students graduate with a dual degree, where they come out with a AA or close to an AA along with their high school diploma, so they're already getting themselves further along in the educational process. But something that I think that we should really push is the issue of females within the STEM program. That should be something that the school should really look at possibly recruiting.
Thank you. We'll do 30 seconds for rebuttal if you so choose.
Thank you. Yes, I stumbled on the wrong term there. Thanks, vocational. I would add to that, less than 50% of the graduates of Sedro-Woolley High School apply for a secondary education. Of those that do continue on, 50% have to take remedial level type classes, so they're signed up for English 101. They haven't graduated at that level to take English 101. They have to take 98 or 99 to get to the college level. So I think fully preparing students to be ready and Sorry, thanks.
Eric, you have 30 seconds.
I don't really have any rebuttal. I do want to continue with that thought about promoting STEM within the female student population. Currently, females take up about half of the college population, but they only graduate 2 out of 10 with a STEM degree, and so there's actually a real need for it. And there's also a lagging the STEM community outside of college isn't being filled as quickly as they hope. So I think that would be a way that we can impact that.
Okay. Jared, did you?
Are you looking at me?
Yeah, no. Jared, this question's for you. We'll go down to, I'll get the same question. Name an example where you have brought opposing groups together to compromise.
Trying to pick the best example. Opposing groups to compromise. I'll go with trying to get, 40 deputies to agree on a labor contract. It's probably the most difficult thing I had to do as the president of the guild and a negotiator, because you've got people from all different walks of life, different ages, different levels of service, how many years they've been there, and getting them to agree on what's going to be in their contract, whether it's going to be signing bonus for new employees, whether it's going to be increases in vacation, increases in pay for scale, and I think I did a really good job in my time at the sheriff's office representing the guild, bringing people together to agree on things, and never had a contract voted down.
Thank you, Joe. Philip, name an example where you have brought opposing groups together to compromise.
Well, it's an interesting question, because often the people that I work with are really there for the best interests of everyone. And there are opposing views, and sometimes we don't all agree. But I do feel, like Brenda said, sometimes you learn from that, and sometimes you move on, and sometimes you make a new decision. An opposing view is not necessarily a bad thing. Often, it makes you open your mind a little bit. And one example I have is that when I was in Leadership Skagit, I really didn't like the project I was on, and I didn't want to do it, but my team did, and I got behind it, and I supported it, and I was very proud of it when we finished.
Thank you very much. Jerry, do you have 30 seconds of rebuttal?
I'll pass.
Paula? Brenda, this question is for you. Name an example where you have brought opposing groups together to compromise.
This is kind of a tough one. I think the best example I have would be back when I was team parent and team coach of my daughter's softball teams. As any of you probably know, if you've had kids in youth sports, there's always parents that oppose each other on the ideas and so forth. But we had a team of many parents who opposed each other as to where to go to play ball, how to fundraise, and so forth. But we managed to pull it all together as team mom. We pulled it all together.
Dennis, name an example where you have brought opposing groups together to compromise.
Well, the one that comes to mind is when I was a lender over in the basin, the Columbia Basin in eastern Washington, and we'd come up with loan agreements. We'd had to get the bank to approve and my superior to approve, and the farm, usually it was families that approved to do farming programs along the line of a mutual interest. Many people like to grow potatoes because it was a great income crop if everything worked out. If it didn't work out, if your contract for potatoes was voided, then you end up at $500,000 in the hole, and most of those farmers couldn't deal with that. So it was always a give and take. Whatever negotiation you're doing, it's always trying to understand the other point of view and work with this mutual goal of getting through it. And that's all I have. I really haven't done that much on it other than that in lending.
Thank you, Dennis. Brenda, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal if you so choose.
No rebuttal, thank you.
Dennis?
No rebuttal here, no rebuttal. We're fine.
Howard Butler, this same question goes to you. Name an example where you have brought opposing groups together to compromise.
I'm kind of shy on that one. I've never really got into the problem similar to what you're talking about. The closest I come to it, actually, was with the volunteer fire department many years ago. We were a very loose group, and the state came through and said we had to form up, get a constitution, and get some rules and regulations to work by, and training schedules, and so on and so forth. And we had a group that says, wait a minute, we're volunteers, we don't have to do that. Well, we had an awful time, and it almost split our department right in the middle. And myself and the chief at the time, we kind of individually worked on our own and got the two groups close enough together to where we could get it settled. They weren't always happy about it, but we were able to settle it without too much of a problem. That's as far as I can go with what I'm...
Thank you. Carl, name an example where you have brought opposing groups together to compromise.
Does that mean where we're going for dinner? It happens every day in our lives, doesn't it? And whether it be in family, in business, in whatever aspects of our lives. And it comes down to, are you willing to put yourself in that other person's place? Are you willing to listen? I'm sorry, all of a sudden I have an anecdote from my grandfather who says, you have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. And so we need to be able to listen to people, process it, and bring them together. I have a specific example of arterial where I witnessed someone killed in a crosswalk by someone on their cell phone. And I had an idea of how we were going to fix it, and got involved with the community, and we got a lot more input on it. There was from, we need a fully functioning traffic light, all the way to, let's grind off that crosswalk so no one will ever cross there again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Butler, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal if you so choose.
I'll pass on that.
I'll keep talking. So it worked over 7 years. We worked with the community, did survey. We listened a lot. We worked through 3 mayors and multiple city council members and different department heads, and we were able to achieve something that most of the folks who lived in the area wanted. We didn't get everybody, but you got most of the folks to have a safer crossing area for vulnerable users. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a question for the 2 school board candidates. And first we'll go to you, Eric. We have LGBTQ students in the Sedro-Woolley School District. How will you support them and protect their rights?
So the LGBT community is obviously protected under the most recent constitutional, the Supreme Court decision. I'm spacing on the name of it, but I mean they're a legal entity. They deserve to have their rights protected just as much as anybody else within the community, whether they're Hispanic or white or what have you. So I'm not going to treat them any differently than I would any other group.
Thank you. Wendy, same question. We have LGBTQ students in the Sedro-Woolley School District. How will you support them and protect their rights?
Thank you. I would support them equally and fully as any other student within the district. There would certainly be no tolerance for bullying or violent acts against them. I believe currently in the C building at the high school there is a gender-neutral bathroom. I don't know about at other school locations within the district. Honestly, I think it would be a good idea to have one of those in the main building of the high school, but I don't know if there's anyone talking about that. I would fully support these students, again, like any other student, and offer any encouragement if they're having an issue from their peers regarding their status as a LGBTQ citizen and student.
Thank you. Eric, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal. You so choose. Wendy?
No, thank you.
Okay. Paula, this next question is for you, and it will go to all the council candidates. Since many of our citizens are rural but spend their dollars in Sedro-Woolley, do you see them as part of the future of the library and as part of Sedro-Woolley?
Right. Yes. For one thing, I know they bring in dollars to our community. I know that they come into town every day. I know this because I grew up east of Clear Lake, up on a mountaintop. So it was everything to be able to come into Sedro-Woolley, to use the library, and when you don't have many resources at home, that's an essential one. And I do consider them to be an important part of our community. I know that as a city council person, I don't make decisions on their behalf, but I am happy to say that if they want my support, they've got it.
Thank you very much. Jared, same question. Since many of our citizens are rural but spend their dollars in Sedro-Woolley, do you see them as part of the future of the library and as part of Sedro-Woolley?
Absolutely. Myself, I grew up in Lyman, 8 miles east of here, and I can guarantee I spent the majority of my money in Sedro-Woolley, spent all of my time here, went to school here, and just like Paula said, we might not make decisions that directly impact them, but we can make decisions that will benefit our community and those in the rural settings, one and the same.
Paula, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal if you so choose.
I don't think I have anything to add there. Thank you, Don.
Jared?
I'll pass.
Mr. O'Neill, this question goes to you, the same question. Since many of our citizens are rural but spend their dollars in Sedro-Woolley, do you see them as part of the future of the library and as part of Sedro-Woolley?
I do. I grew up 11 miles southeast of Havre, Montana, in the Bear Paw Mountains, and our school was in town, and we had to make an 11-mile drive, irregardless of how much snow was between us and town. And there was a few occasions when we actually used a team of horses to get there, because I think we were the first people out in the country that had four-wheel drive. And we were really connected with the city, and to a lesser degree the city with us, but we depended on that city for support. And it was a great place. That's where we got a lot of our hired help. We just went to town and picked them up, and Dad knew everybody in town, and our church was in town. We were all interconnected, and you couldn't really divide the two. And it was a great way to grow up in that environment. Thank you.
Brenda, same question. Since many of our citizens are rural but spend their dollars in Sedro-Woolley, do you see them as part of the future of the library and as part of Sedro-Woolley?
Well, yes, absolutely, because that's one of the things that's unique about our community is just the fact that we're united with the rural areas, not only because the school district encompasses all those areas, but this is a hub for everybody to come and shop, the first stop for people to come and shop. Yes, it'll definitely connect everybody. They're part of the library community because the Central Skagit Library encompasses the entire rural Sedro-Woolley area with our school district. So, yeah, most definitely they're part of the community.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill, 30 seconds if you so choose for rebuttal.
I really don't have a rebuttal. I think we all agree on the same points. Thank you.
Brenda, any additional comments? 30 seconds.
No further comment.
Carl DeYoung, the same question goes to you. Since many of our citizens are rural but spend their dollars in Sedro-Woolley, do you see them as part of the future of the library and as part of Sedro-Woolley?
It's one of the great benefits of the interlocal agreement is now we can involve more people to get access to the library. And so now the community at large, who formerly wasn't considered part of that library system, are now considered. So absolutely yes.
Thank you. Mr. Bider, since many of our citizens are rural but spend their dollars in Sedro-Woolley, do you see them as part of the future of the library and as part of Sedro-Woolley?
You got a two-headed monster there. You got the library on one side, you got the city of Sedro-Woolley on the other side for the money that be coming in. I see the rural people as people that are involved with the city as far as commercial is concerned. They come in, they buy their groceries here, they buy their clothing in town, they spend their money, so to speak, in Sedro-Woolley. The library is I don't think that's been solved at this point. Where is it going to be located? It's probably the biggest thing. Is it going to be in the city here with this merger, or is it going to be sitting out in the county at the edge of city limits someplace? The reason why I asked that question, here's little Jimmy down here, is 7, 8 years old, and wants to use the library. He lives down on the south end of town.
Your time is up. Excuse me. Mr. DeYoung, you have 30 seconds if you so choose.
Thank you. As it's been quoted in the paper and at the primary forum, the interlocal agreement, it's a done deal. And we need to move forward, I believe, are the quotes. So let's just get the best library with the money that we have and move on to the... thank you.
Mr. Bradley, you have 30 seconds for any additional comments.
Well, like I say, the only thing I can see is I'd like to know where it's going to be built, where the young people that don't have transportation can get to the library for the usage. As far as consolidation of the library, if they keep it here in town, where the young people can get to it on a bicycle or walking, I think it's great. But if they're going to move it out of town, where the kid on the bicycle or is walking can't get to it, I'm not interested.
I want to remind everybody, please speak directly straight into your microphone because these are directional and it's being recorded for broadcast at a later time. We move to the school board candidates. This question, and the first question goes to you, Wendy. For several years, the city has proposed partnering with the Sedro-Woolley School District to jointly fund a student resource officer at the high school. Would you support such an arrangement? Why or why not?
Thank you. I do not support that agreement because my understanding of that is that support enforcement officer, or SRO, can be pulled away at any moment if there's a need within the city. I also do not believe that one officer or one individual is going to prevent prevent an act at the high school or any of the schools within the district. I think the most important resource for security is the staff and students themselves. Obviously, we want buildings that are safe with cameras, self-locking doors, key cards, etc. Having staff front and center screening individuals and students and guests, I think, would be far more effective than an officer who, again, at any moment can be called away when duty calls within the city.
Thank you. Eric Johnson, for several years, the city has proposed partnering with the Sedro-Woolley School District to jointly fund a student resource officer at the high school. Would you support such an arrangement? Why or why not?
Yes, I would support it in theory, but I don't necessarily put it very high on the priority list. With the recent implementation of the Safety and Technology Initiative, there's been a lot of safety mechanisms that have been placed throughout the school district with the buzz-in system, the security cameras at the front. But I do think that, unfortunately, we are in what seems to be a more divisive and sometimes more violent society. And so I think there eventually will come a time where a SRO will be important. I actually like how Phil Brockman has kept that on the table, but he's prioritized it. We're making sure that other staff, support staff for the teachers, arts and music, he's placed those above, but he's never taken it fully off the table, and I support him in that decision.
Thank you. Wendy Granberg, you have 30 seconds if you so choose for rebuttal.
I would just add that the safety is, of course, the #1 priority for all the students, teachers, and staff, and empowering them with tools and training and education regarding the safety of the buildings and of themselves, I think would be a priority above hiring the officer. Thank you.
Eric, if so choose, you have 30 seconds. Jared, this question will go to all the council members, the council candidates. How would you feel about being a contender for the most diverse city council in the county?
Can you say the question again?
How would you feel about being a contender for the most diverse city council in the county?
Is that this council?
Okay. A little bit of clarification would be great, but I guess I'll run with it. I think I'll speak generally. Treat everyone from Sedro-Woolley the same, and I would represent in the same manner, no matter how diverse or I guess what the makeup is of our city. We're all citizens of Sedro-Woolley, and those would be the people that I would serve. And I apologize for that kind of muddy answer. I don't understand the question fully.
Thank you, Jared. Paula, how would you feel about being a contender for the most diverse city council in the county?
Well, I am a contender for the most diverse city council. We have been noted for being a council that has embraced the females on the council, that has also people of color on the council, and I'm proud of those people. I think they do an excellent job. I don't think that that means that we shouldn't have males on the council or anything else. I think that we do have a great candidate forum right here. I mean, these candidates are all, willing to step up and serve, and I think that's great, and I'll be happy to serve with any of them.
George, you have 30 seconds for any additional comments or rebuttal.
I would just say I believe in putting the best person for the job in the position. No matter if you're male, female, what your ethnic background is. If you've got a passion to lead and the drive to do it, then I think you should run for office. And I don't think it really matters on what your background is. If you love this community and you want to serve it, I'd support that. And that's why I want to be a part of the team that we have.
Thank you. Paula, any additional comments? 30 seconds.
No, I think that pretty much summarizes the fact that we do want to see the best council that we can have.
We'll move to Ward 3, same question. Brenda Kinzer, how would you feel about being a contender for the most diverse city council in the county?
Well, I agree that this question's a little hard to understand, so I'm going to go with it as, hopefully this is how the person that asked it meant it, I'm going to go with it as a hypothetical anywhere in the county if this is a really diverse council anywhere in the county, and I'd feel good about it. I think diversity brings a lot of flavor into the mix, and you can add a lot of different types of opinions and things to consider if you have a lot of diversity, so I'd feel really good about it.
Thank you. Dennis O'Neill, how would you feel about being a contender for the most diverse city council in the county?
I think it'd be great because, again, you get more of a blended attitude or viewpoint affecting everybody within the county. And that is something you can't really buy, but you got to get people interested enough to, like we're doing, is run for office, and I think that's great that we have so many this year. Thank you.
Brenda Kinzer, we have 30 seconds for additional comments if you so choose.
No, thank you.
Dennis O'Neill, 30 seconds if you so choose.
No, thank you.
Mr. Hill Beitler, same question. How would you feel about being a contender for the most diverse city council in the county?
Like's already been stated, it's kind of hard to answer that question because it's not really clear. I'm not sure what the person's looking for. But I'm going to take the same stand. If it's like a countywide type situation, you're looking for the best people possible. And you've got to get out and dig the woodwork up and get people interested in running. Now, if you look at the run today we got, not only here to Sedro-Woolley, but all over the county, how many uncontested positions are there? There should never be. Never. There should be 2, 3, 4 people apply for this position every election. Take them to the primary, weed them out, get down to 2 like it is right now, and then go again. People just don't care anymore. And it's unfortunate. These desertification, I think it'd be nice if there was maybe a fire bill under to where people understood what it was.
Thank you. Carl DeYoung, same question. How would you feel about being a contender for the most diverse city council in the county?
Well, not to sound like Mr. Spock in the Star Trek movie, but how I would feel about it, I would feel great. I've been involved in leadership of an organization that was mainly white middle-aged men, and I asked those people if they would like to make room for folks of different gender, different race, different way of thinking, and also different age groups. And that is something that we worked toward compromise, and we were able to get a board that was the most diverse of its time. And I think it's important that we see beyond ourselves and make room for people that are coming up. I do want to make a note that it's amazing that we have the first person of color ever elected on the Sedro-Woolley Council in its 118-year history, and I think that's pretty phenomenal.
Thank you, Carl. Mr. Beitler, you have 30 seconds for additional comments if you so choose.
Pass.
Carl DeYoung.
Thank you, no.
We'll move back to the candidates for school board. This question goes to you, Mr. Johnson. What extra support and programs would you recommend for our high school students to help them prepare for life in the real world after graduation?
I would support bolstering our civic education program. I think that civics lends itself to better opportunities to connect with local organizations, local governments, participate in different internships or paid ships. So I think that would not only help build resumes, but give them real-life experiences and experiences outside the classroom, and also give them an appreciation for the entire civics process, which I think just as a whole makes for a more well-rounded person. So that's what I would support.
Thank you. Wendy Greenberg, what extra support and programs would you recommend for our high school students to help them prepare for life in the real world after graduation?
Thank you. One program currently at the high school is AVID, which is Advancement via... I wrote it down. I should know this by heart. Advancement via individual determination. It's currently a class that students have to apply to. It's for students that are college-bound. They're taught public speaking skills, how to work in a group process, Cornell note-taking, and presentations. I would like to see that, first of all, available to all the students, and I also think it would be neat if it was combined with advisory. I think it would make the advisory class a bit more meaningful. Advisory right now is sort of check off your grades, make sure you're keeping up and you're where you need to be. I think combining some of those life skills, as those will apply beyond college, those can apply in a job, personal relationships, etc.
Thank you. Eric, you have 30 seconds for additional comments if you so choose.
Just additional comments. I'd say also I think the vocational program needs to be given more funding and support as well. It plays in well to civics, and it also plays well into STEM, and by giving it more funding, adding another teacher, hopefully down the road, maybe even expanding or renovating the C building to give them some more applicable hands-on life skills. Not everybody is going to go to college, and even some that do go to college are going to drop out, and so they're going to need to have something to fall back on, and I think that would be an added benefit to their education.
Okay, thank you. Any other additional comments? Wendy?
I would just add kind of to something I said a bit earlier, communicating and supporting students from an early age as possible that college is attainable, and getting them signed up with FAFSA and supporting them in all the other scholarship or paths or avenues that will lead them to college, technical school, career, small business, whatever they decide to pursue beyond high school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This next question goes to you, Paula Kelly. Do you believe that questions relating to public concerns asked at council meetings should be answered, if possible, at that meeting?
I've been to many city council meetings, and I think that sometimes people who come up to the mic primarily to hear themselves. But that said, that doesn't mean that they aren't, that we shouldn't respect their opinions and try to address them as best we can. I don't think that the council can necessarily do so every time for everybody in full without having done any further background investigation on something. I think that the City Council has recently adopted some new rules that help them address those issues that have come up before and that people have said they didn't have the ability to speak on. And at the last one I went to, they were told they had some additional time.
Thank you. Question to you, Jared. Do you believe that questions relating to public concerns asked at council meetings should be answered, if possible, at that meeting?
I think if it's structured properly, because I've been to some of the council meetings I've been at, people will come to the podium just to make a point of or to express their displeasure with one of the council members, or personally attack the mayor, and I don't think that time should be spent grueling through that, or I think if it's structured properly, we could try to answer those things. But I think, honestly, the citizen's going to get the best response if we listen to their concern. We can work on it during, find the best answer during a work session, consult with staff, and then, respond to the person. And I think they're going to get more for their money and get a more valuable response that way.
Thank you. Paula, you have 30 seconds if you so choose for rebuttal.
I think that's all I need to say.
Jared?
Just a couple comments. I think that, I support people being heard, but I don't support, people just using the mic time to attack the council, to attack the mayor. I think, those people are doing the best they can, and you're never going to please everybody as a politician. So I think, like I said, if structured properly, answer some of those questions.
Thank you very much. Next, Ward 3, Dennis, this question goes to you, Dennis O'Neill. Do you believe that questions relating to public concerns asked at council meetings should be answered, if possible, at that meeting?
Well, right now, very few people are coming to council meetings because they don't have an exchange of information. There's no reply to your questions. If you're going to sit there and try to qualify, everybody has a question to ask out, like Jared just mentioned, I think that's censorship. I think right now we can ask questions for 3 minutes. We don't get a response. And you look up here and you might as well paint those figures on the wall behind us like they have in Anacortes. This is an exchange of information. You're going to have a few people that come out of the woodwork that have crazy questions, but you limit their response to the same length as on the questions they asked, 3 minutes. The main point I've been hearing from the people who are up here at the council is they don't want to spend the time because council meetings can last a long time. But you can take a break. I'd like to see more people show up at these meetings and get more input. And right now it's not happening. There's 10 people here on the average at our council meetings. Thank you.
Brenda, do you believe that questions relating to public concerns asked at council meetings should be answered, if possible, at that meeting?
Well, one thing that needs to be considered is that a council meeting is a meeting of the council. It's not a public meeting. And while we do love to hear all the questions and comments from the community, it's probably more appropriate to answer those questions at a later time if we can, because if we were to take the time to answer every single question at every council meeting, it could often turn into a debate and really turn our council meeting into a circus. And one of the problems that we have encountered is that most of the people in the audience leave early or leave because there's an executive session, but many of us are more than happy to answer those questions after the council meeting. It's not the fact that the questions have been discounted. It's just that it's not appropriate to take the time of a meeting of the council to answer those questions.
Thank you
we
very
still
much.
want to answer them.
Dennis, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal if you so choose.
Well, I guess this is one of the points Brenda and I really differ. I think it's really important. When I campaigned in the primary, my big point was voter participation. As most of you know, we never got a chance to vote on the library issue at all. We didn't get a chance to vote on negotiations. The library's been here for, I think, 150 years, and we just voted it away. We don't have control of the library anymore. It's not an equal partnership, regardless of what you say, but we are still paying the dollars for it that we paid before. We get 3 minutes. Is that going to really cripple anybody to listen to 3 minutes of something you don't want to hear? I think that's what people in this community need to have, so they'll start showing up at the city meetings, and I think there should be exchanging information. It shouldn't be a one-way street. Thank you.
Brenda?
Once again, the City Council really does welcome questions and comments. And if a clear question is asked, again, a clear question is asked, we are more than happy to answer that. We'll step aside and talk to you about this after a meeting or for coffee or whatever, and really have a discussion and give you clear answers.
Okay. We move to Mr. Carl DeYoung. Do you believe that questions relating to public concerns asked at council meetings should be answered, if possible, at that meeting?
As a frequent commenter in multiple government agencies, there is different formats and process that each entity has. And there is a learning curve to each of those processes. And my solution to that is to do a trial of just going and listening to see how it's done, and then mold my presentation around that. I understand that you're not going to get the answers that you may want from a legislative body at that time. There are many avenues to get your question answered via email, phone calls, or also public comment.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Beidler, do you believe that questions relating to public concerns asked at council meetings should be answered, if possible, at that meeting?
I'm not sure how to answer that one. It's a kind of a loaded question. I think it should be answered in the respect that what you're talking about. I don't think there should be a situation where they're going to make a decision. I think the question should come up. It should go through the council. The council discuss it and table it till the next meeting, at least, and then bring it back up again. That gives them a chance to digest what they've been hearing at the meeting, and then at the next meeting, possibly maybe vote for it. But I don't think that a quickie is the answer.
Thank you very much. Carl, you have 30 seconds if you so choose.
Continuing, I have found that the Sedro-Woolley council and department heads are very responsive to the questions that I have posed, either at the council meeting with the department head answering the question after public comment, or the council members will use their good of the order to answer the question. We have seen a more liberal back and forth with the new set of rules. We'll see how that all susses out, but I have had an outstanding experience with getting my questions answered and also with follow-up later on. Thank you.
Mr. Beidler.
I think that we need to take a look at procedures. I think that the entire council needs to completely go through the procedures and rewrite them. The way it is right now, the council sits here and it's almost like a rubber stamp. Everything comes up from the administrative over here. The administrative section gets up and talks, and in fact, I think it was last meeting, one of the ladies come up and asked a question and had 3 minutes, and it's going to be chopped off because Aaron sat over here and talked for about a minute and a half on the problem that she was asking about.
Okay.
But
thank you very much. We'll go back to the school board now on this question. And this question goes to Wendy. What do you see as your role in the school district as a school board member? This will be the last question we'll go down before we go to our final statements.
Well, the primary role of the school district is to set the policy and budget. I believe, most importantly, the role of school board members is to reflect and support the community beliefs on education and to reflect the community values on education and students and schooling. I currently serve on a board, which I have for 6 years, and I understand that it's a group process. Not one person represents the board. We're each a member of the board as a whole. Once a decision has been made, whether we agree or disagree, our role is to support that decision of the board. Most importantly, again, to reflect the values that the community has expressed for education and students.
Thank you, Wendy Granberg. Eric Johnson, what do you see as your role in the school district as a school board member?
Well, my opponent's absolutely right that the primary function of the school board directors is to set policy and the long-term vision of the school district. It's known as policy governance. and that is the primary function. So showing up to meetings, digging in, doing the research, crafting the policy that best suits all the needs of all the players within the school district, the teachers, staff, students, is done well, and then also the budget, and making sure that the long-term vitality of the school is seen. Something that I've heard a lot from teachers and staff that I've met going out into the schools that I've done, they kind of comment a lot about not seeing the directors a whole lot, that they don't get to see them very often. So that's something that I would definitely like to change.
Thank you. Wendy, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal if you so choose.
That was well said, and thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
I'll just add to the end of my comment that I definitely plan on being a very hands-on director. I want to get out. I want to be able to go have lunch and sit in on classes and meet with the teachers and find out what best suits their needs as far as policy, making sure that they get adequate resources. So that is something that it will be near and dear to my heart as far as the role of playing school board director.
Thank you very much. Okay, we move to the at-large position. We'll have the same question for all the council candidates. Jared, this goes to you first. Who is responsible for making decisions on city issues, council members or the voters?
It's a balance of both. I believe it depends on the issue. If it's an issue that's best suited to go on a ballot and go to the voters, or if it's something that the council should handle, there's no one answer to every issue. The voters will elect the council because they, believe in their ability to make decisions for the town. And those decisions, that are made, business decisions and things like that, but just like tonight we heard, should there be term limits? It was brought up that maybe that should be put to a vote of the people. I believe that it depends on a case-by-case basis, depending on the issue, whether it's an issue to be dealt by the council or go to a vote of the people.
Jared Couch, thank you very much. Paula Kelly, who is responsible for making decisions on city issues, council members or the voters?
For the most part, we are a representative democracy, and the goal of the council would be to represent the electors who have put them in the office and to do so to the best of their abilities. It should not be voters against the council. It should be the council for the voters. And I think that our council does a pretty good job of that. I think they listen. I think they are willing to compromise when compromise is called for. And when something should go to the vote of the people, then let's put it there. But you did elect the people to represent you. Give them the confidence that they deserve to do the best for you.
Thank you. Jared Couch, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal if you so choose.
I would say ultimately, if you really boil down the question, the decisions are made by the voters, and the council's the voice of the voters. So a good council member is going to be connected with either their ward or, in our position, with the city, and know what those decisions are that the community members have made, and we basically are to gather as a council and voice those decisions and those thoughts of the people.
Thank you. Paula Kelly, 30 seconds if you so choose.
Well, I believe that, as long as you're out there and you're open to people, there's plenty of room for people to come and meet with you, to talk with you. The mayor walks the town every day. I see him out there. He's constantly asking people questions about what they think. I see Jermaine at our Chamber of Commerce meetings. I see other people there as well, like Julia. And when I look at those things, I think it's important. I think I'd run over.
Thank you.
You actually didn't. I didn't push the button.
Oh,
You're right on. You actually finished right on time.
okay.
Very good. Very good. Brenda Kinzer, this question to you. This is Ward 3. Who is responsible for making decisions on city issues, council members or the voters?
Well, I do have to agree that it does go on a case-by-case basis, but in most cases, most things that come before the council for a vote end up on our agenda a couple of times, so that gives our constituents time to discuss the matter with us if they choose or come for a public comment. And hopefully we're out in the community connecting with our residents to get their opinion on these matters if this is something that they should give their input on. So it really goes both ways depending on what the matter is that comes before the council.
Thank you. Dennis O'Neill, who is responsible for making decisions on city issues, council members or the voters?
Well, I think most of the time the council members are going to, because, I mean, the bureaucracy is bad enough as it is without going to the voters for every single thing that comes up. So I would say 90% of it. I would digress a little bit on things when you give away institutions like the library or the police department or the fire department, and you merge with, say, the sheriff's department or something like that. I think those kind of things should go to the voters. And in the case of the library, there was plenty of time to put that on the 2016 pamphlet, a ballot, at least get an advisory vote. Otherwise, you've got 7 or 8 people that are making all the decisions for the town, and it doesn't wash real well. And I wonder now, even if you put that library issue on the vote, if the people were really behind it. I know myself trying to get hold of a council member at times, you don't get answers back. And I have come in and talked to the council members here, and I don't get a reply later, as sort of been inferred. And if people want to try that, go ahead. I think now it might be improved because it's come up as an issue. Thanks.
Brenda, you have 30 seconds if you so choose for any rebuttal or additional comments.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Neill. 30 seconds.
I'm fine, thanks.
Okay. Howard Beitler, this question goes to you. Who is responsible for making decisions on city issues, council members or the voters?
That's a loaded question also. It starts out, yes, it goes to the council. But if it's a hot item, you get a hot potato like the library is a good example, then it should go back to the voters. But if it comes up and there's no big controversy over it, the council should handle it. But if it gets to be a hot item, like I say, then it should go to the voters. I don't see any reason for the council taking all of the heat that they taken now over this library thing, when it should have went to the voters, let them say yes or no on it, and then we'd all know where we're at.
Thank you. Carl DeYoung, who is responsible for making decisions on city issues, council members or the voters?
I don't think it's an or question. It's both those groups make the decisions. As has been stated earlier, we are a representative democracy in this great republic that we live in called the United States of America. And your choice, and that's why you're here tonight, is to help you make that choice of who you want to be your voice, who you want to be your representative in your ward, in your neighborhood, and for the city at large. I think there's an idea of direct democracy, but votes cost money. It costs the city then to go to the county and say, we need a ballot item. How much money does that cost? Is it budgeted for? And if we don't have the money, are you willing to sacrifice an essential service in order to run that ballot issue? So I think there's important issues that do go to the voters, especially when we're spending money as in a levy.
Thank you. Mr. Bradley, you have 30 seconds for any rebuttal.
Well, again, I think that the council is the one that should make the vote, but if it's a controversial, then make it to the voters and let them decide. But it's too many times I've sat here and listened to the vote, and the vote goes to the council here, and the people out in the public have no idea what they're voting for. Now, that library thing that's a hot item really right now. The public should have had a better shot at voting on that, to see yes or no.
Okay, thank you very much. Carl DeYoung, you have 30 seconds for any rebuttal.
I think it's really important that you have a direct connection with your representative and that you have a communication with them and that they're available to talk to you. And that is my promise to you. And I think that will help resolve communication issues and transparency issues we all have, and the trust issue that we're hearing up here tonight. So I think it's very important to get to know who you want to be your representative. Thanks for being here tonight.
It's time now, thank you all, it's time now for final statements from our candidates. We'll start with Ward 6, then go to Ward 3, and then at-large, and then school district candidates in the reverse order in which we started. So we will start 2 minutes. We will start with you, Mr. Carl DeYoung. You have 2 minutes.
All right. As we're starting to lose some of the room. Thank you all for coming tonight and bearing the weather. I also would like to thank Don Wick for moderating, and also Aaron Berg for doing the logistics for this forum tonight. It was an opportunity for us to address the concerns and talk about the future, wasn't it? I hope you've gotten a sense about who I am and how I plan to lead. None of us know exactly what the future holds. All we can do is make the best plans possible based on our knowledge and experience. Tonight, you've heard some specific plans and goals, and I'm willing to discuss my answers with any of you in the greatest of detail. Just contact me at 360-420-2144. That's 360-420-2144. Let's grab coffee. I predicted that we wouldn't solve every problem tonight, and that's exactly what happened. I do hope, though, that you've gotten a chance to know me a little better. I ask you, as I did in the open, to take what you've heard, combine it with what you know, and make the best decision you can make for the future of Sedro-Woolley. I hope I have earned your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Harold Beitler, you have 2 minutes for your final statement.
Thank you. Okay, in conclusion tonight, we should be running the city council should run the city just like we do our homes. If we got the money in the bank, we go for it. If we do not have the money, step back and take a look at it again and wait till a later time when you can afford it. Or also, another way to look at running the city with the council here is we should be looking at playing chess. Chess player does not play one move at a time. He moves a piece, but he's also moved in his mind 3 or 4 pieces ahead of time. They play way ahead of time. Okay, the council should be going day to day, also week, month, and years ahead. What's this going to be? What we looked at tonight? What's this going to do to us down the road? Okay, and then one of the biggest things we should be looking at is our tax base. We don't have no tax base. We're broke. We gave money. We're broke. Okay, we need more industry. Let's get out here and get some new industry in here. We got too many stores downtown that are empty. Let's take a look at getting down there and getting them filled up. What should we go to Mount Vernon and Burlington to do our shopping? We got that river area, tremendous amount of people coming in through here. They would stop here if we had the stores open, but we haven't got them. Okay, and then when you get into it, you got no place for the people to live if they did have industry in here. So we need to take a real hard look at our housing, low-income housing. Another thing is I've had one word tonight on, and that's our drug problem here in town. What about the drug problem? Nobody's been mentioned it. We've got an awful drug problem here in town. What about our homeless people?
Mr. Beitler, your time, 2 minutes is up. Thank you very, very much. We move now to Ward 3, and Mr. Dennis O'Neill, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Well, I started out again as being an advocate for the voters. the direct voters. You know, we've got, the last turnout, our mayor got elected by 21% of the registered voters. Most of the council people, with the exception of Jermaine, she got quite a bit higher than that, and another one did also. But what we're finding out, we're just not getting the people out to be interested. They come to a council meeting, they aren't being heard, they don't get their question answered. Brenda's a great person. I think I really hated to run against her because I think she's a great person and she's done a pretty good job. But it's wrong when you say that these council members are getting back to you with your answers to your questions. They don't. And I've come up and asked a lot of questions over the last 10 years, and I don't get, and none of those times have I gotten a call back. And I think that is common decency and common sense to do that. So I guess my issue is the practicality of it versus the utopia where everything's just perfect and people get back to you, people get involved. I've seen council members been up here that don't even ask very many questions of the mayor or whoever's coming up to speak. And I'd like to see that changed a little bit. You know, we just need, I personally didn't want to run. I don't want to be here. I think we need to get younger people energized and getting out and coming up here and talking like I'm talking, but with many more years ahead of them and more depth of the perspectives than I do. I'm just trying to get a few things cleared out, and it's a tough race. I think it's, you know, the council's in their rut, and that's where they're at, and that's where they're going to stay unless you get new blood in there. Thank you.
Brenda Kinzer, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
I'm running for re-election again for Sedro-Woolley City Council Ward 3 because I'm fully committed to the residents in our city, in Ward 3. I will answer your questions honestly and wholeheartedly. I'll give you the entire story, not just little pieces. I listen to the constituents, I act on their requests, and I answer their questions. I also am very strong about keeping the city accountable for the actions that the city takes. I'm totally committed to Sedro-Woolley. I think we live in a very unique community being here on Highway 20. We're in a little slump for a little while, but the city's actually going through an uptick right now in building, in business, and we're on the right path right now to make this city be all that it can be. We've got a long ways to go getting our downtown area revitalized, but discussions have begun on that, and hopefully we can begin working on that so we can fill those empty holes downtown on Metcalf Street and around the area. I think revitalizing the downtown area is really going to be key to making this a destination little city. So we're going to be working on that, and I really look forward to serving another 4 years on City Council, and I hope I've earned the vote of Ward 3 voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda Kinzer. We move now to the at-large position. Paula Kelly, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Well, some of the goals I would like to see. Thank you. Some of the goals I would like to see within our city include things like affordable housing. Luckily, we have 114 units being built right now in our city, but a healthy population and a healthy economy requires the availability of housing that families of all incomes can afford. I believe the completion of the Swift Center is vital to our economy, as is the revitalization of some areas in town. I see lots going on downtown that is great. But recently I was asked by the mayor to sit in with a lady from Olympia regarding the Main Street program, and that's something that we as a community should look into more. I think the new library is an excellent thing, and I'm very much for it, and I don't believe that we ever had a need to go beyond where we went, because I went to several public forums on the issue. There were plenty of times for people to talk and to give their opinion about it. So I'm not sure why certain people think that it wasn't an opportunity to do so. We also need to do more to support our Parks Department. They work really, really hard, and with so little that I'm often amazed. That said, I also want to commend all of the city staff for a job well done. I find they are all a very dedicated group and deserve recognition for their work. I would like to say thank you to all of you for coming. I know it was a terrible night to have to go out, and I do hope for your vote. I would really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Paul. Jared Couch, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
I too want to thank everyone for being here. Can you reset the timer so I know when to? Thank you. It's all good. I want to thank everybody for being here. I think you're very lucky when you look at your ballot and you look at the at-large section. It's a win-win either way. I think Paula Kelly is an outstanding person. She's done a lot of things for this community. And I also think that I would be a great asset to the council. I think I've done a lot for the communities that I've been involved in. The council, as it sits, is, I think, an outstanding group that's diverse. They have good discussion. They don't always agree on everything. And I think it's a group that I could work well with. I'm not a yes man or a head nodder, and I look forward to good discussion with that group if elected. I look forward to serving, with great people, with a great mayor who bleeds blue and white, is Sedro-Woolley to the core, and has done so many outstanding things for this community. I think Sedro-Woolley's lucky to have such a dedicated mayor, veteran to this country, and that's serving us. And those are the people I want to serve with. I'm represented by Jermaine in my ward, who does an outstanding job. It's just a group of good people that I look forward to working with, and I hope throughout this process you've learned enough about me to earn your vote. Thank you for everything, and please travel safe tonight as you make your way home.
We move to our final two candidates, the contested position for school board, and Mr. Eric Johnson, you have 2 minutes for your closing comments.
All right, thank you. First of all, thank you all for coming, for braving the storm. Thank you for the city for hosting this event. I'd also like to take this opportunity to publicly thank all those who have helped me out in my campaign. It's been a broad partnership of a wide variety of different people from different backgrounds, former and current teachers, administrators, public officials, Democrats and Republicans. I mean, it's been a real blessing to have you, and I couldn't have done it without you. Your advice, insight, and the sharing of your concerns, your financial support has all meant a lot to me. It is my hope to carry this partnership building, this coalition building, into public office. For it is in the seeking of our needs and the finding of our common grounds that we solve problems and that makes for great institutions. I'd like to leave you with this. When I was in the 5th grade at Central Elementary, I was fortunate to have 2 great teachers. First was Mr. Swenson, a great teacher, and one that I put as amongst my favorite and most respected. I'm also proud to have his support. Through his teaching and caring of his students, he taught me hard work, empathy, care, and discernment. The other was my math teacher, who I also highly respect, Mrs. Benefield. Math was not my strong suit, and I would silently struggle and never really reach out for help. She noticed. And I remember clearly her coming up and discreetly coming up to me one day in class and told me that it was okay to ask questions and to ask for help. She told me, never be afraid to ask questions. That single statement from one of my teachers helped mold me into who I am today. I am not afraid to ask the tough questions. I'm not afraid to ask the dumb questions. Digging in and finding the answers and solutions is part of who I am, and it is part of what I will do as your school board director. I thank you for tonight, and please vote for Eric Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Wendy Greenberg, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Thank you. In closing, I would like to recite a quote that is painted on the wall of the 2nd floor at Sedro-Woolley High School. Life is like a camera. Focus on what's important, capture the good times, develop from the negatives, and if things don't work out, take another shot. Personally, my high school experience was not ideal. I did not fit into the traditional categories of students, and I slipped through many cracks. I did not have the opportunity to attend college straight out of high school. I went straight to work. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. This has inspired and encouraged me to run for the school board, to do whatever needs to be done to meet each student's individual needs for education. I want all of our students to know that everyone from the school board on down is dedicated to their success. With their hard work and our support, all students can have the opportunity to be successful. I am not the status quo candidate. If you want a truly fresh face and an unbiased board member who will advocate for the entire district, I respectfully request your vote. I want to serve on the school board. Thank you again, and please vote.
Thank you to all the candidates. Could we have a round of applause for our candidates? Thank you so much for your willingness to serve, and thank you to the mayor and Aaron Berg for hosting this event here in the chambers tonight. Can we have a nice round of applause for the city? And as journalist Bill Moyer said, although our interests as citizens vary, each one is an artery to the heart that pumps life through the body politic, and each is important to the health of democracy and certainly to our communities. And somebody else said democracy involves that old-fashioned thing called working it out. Thank you all for agreeing to come and work it out and be a candidate for City Council and the school board. And thanks to our audience. Let's have another round of applause for everyone here tonight. And Patrick, our great timekeeper. Let's hear it for timekeepers everywhere. Okay, good night, everybody, and drive safe. That weather out there is a little nasty.